Hi everyone, it's Elisa. Before I step into the July letters, I want to take a moment to close out the second chapter and reflect on what we've uncovered so far, from the day my dad deployed to Vietnam in late April 1971 through the end of June 1971. My father, Captain Richard Allgood, known as Dick, had already served as a C-141 Starlifter pilot, flying heavy military transports for the Air Force around the world. The C-141 was enormous, used to carry troops, cargo, and wounded soldiers across long distances. He once lost all cockpit instruments on a flight from Japan to Alaska and still managed to land the plane safely. He always said it was by the grace of God. That kind of mission took composure, experience, and a level of steadiness that I think came to define who he was. Just before Vietnam, he transitioned into something entirely different and much more dangerous. He retrained to fly the HH-43 helicopters with the 38th Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Squadron. Switching from jets to helicopters wasn't common, and flying rescue missions in a war zone required a completely different skill set. The fact that the Air Force entrusted him with that transition says everything about the kind of pilot and man he was. Back in San Antonio, my mom, Captain Sarah Allgood, was still serving at Wilford Hall as an operating room nurse. She was in her 30s, confident, experienced, and deeply committed to her patients and her team. But just a few weeks after my dad left, she found out she was pregnant with me. And from that moment on, these letters tell the story not just of a long-distance love, but of two people preparing to become parents, one from a war zone, the other while still wearing the uniform herself. What I've learned from these first few months of letters is that my parents never stopped showing up for each other. They wrote through time zones, mail delays, morning sickness, and long hospital shifts. They kept each other laughing. They comforted each other, and they imagined a future that neither of them could fully see, but both believed in. And when it came to connecting by phone, it was nearly impossible. There were no cell phones, no FaceTime, no email. If my dad was lucky enough to get a military switchboard and get through, the call could still fail. The system was fragile, inconsistent, and heavily restricted. If my mom wasn't home when the call came through, she missed it, and there was no way to call back. Sometimes weeks passed without hearing each other's voices. They had to rely entirely on letters and cassette tapes just to stay close. And it's such a stark contrast to the way deployed families can communicate today. Still, they made the most of what they had. My mom would joke about the rain in Texas, calling it salting the clouds, a phrase that turned out to be unintentionally accurate. Operation Popeye, the U.S. military's weather modification program, really was underway in Vietnam during this time. And for both of them, the weather and the world felt unpredictable. But their love never wavered. My dad wrote about how much he looked forward to being a father, how he loved the thought of being a pop. And my mom, even when she was sick or overwhelmed, still found the energy to write, "Love you, Wittle, Chickie-Dee," at the bottom of her letters. Some letters were light-hearted. Some were hard to read. Some were deeply personal, so intimate I had to stop and ask myself if I was ready to read them out loud. But together, they paint a picture of two people who were building a life in real time, across distance and danger, with so much honesty and hope. This is the end of chapter 2, but not the end of their story. There are more letters, many more months, and more to discover. Thank you for listening and for helping me hold all of this. I'll be back soon with the first letter of July. Until then, I'm Elisa Cecilia Allgood, and this is the Allgoods, Vietnam through the Eyes of Love.